Hello and welcome to Redacted Tonight VIP. I'm Lee Camp. We get so much anti-China propaganda these days in the U.S. that I thought today I'd speak with an actual Chinese person who lives in China. Oh no, that's not how U.S. media is supposed to work. We're supposed to just throw crazy accusations at China and never speak to anyone who lives there. That's how it's supposed to be done. Yes, that's the only way, honestly, that the deluge of American xenophobic garbage media could possibly work. If Americans never actually hear from actual Chinese people and Chinese journalists. So today I speak with the hugely popular journalist Xinjiang Li. She creates segments for CGTN and her own platforms, and many of them she does while traveling around China and speaking to a few of the 1.3 billion people. Xinjiang, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on. I know it was quite an effort, so I really appreciate it, considering the time zones. I wanted to start off with one of the biggest propaganda points that the U.S. has been pushing recently. They say there's a genocide going on against Uyghur Muslims in China. But when people actually dig into the sources of that claim, they're all either funded by the U.S. military-industrial complex or they're one evangelical German nutbag named Adrian Zenz. You've traveled around China. You've interviewed many Uyghurs. What is the truth as you've seen it?
Thank you, Lee, for this question. I think it's really important to address it. I'm a Chinese. I traveled to Xinjiang so many times in different years. I mean, I can tell you what's really happening here. So those people who are talking about the genocide or whatever, the ones they're funding and deciding are basically the terrorists, the separatists. And none of them are mentioning how Xinjiang was destroyed by terrorism before.
Right.
It's since the 90s, thousands of attacks across Xinjiang, not just Xinjiang. The terrorist attacks also spread to other cities of China and also other countries. Because a group of radicalized terrorists are asking the local people to believe in their extreme version of Islam, and even asking the Uyghurs that are not Muslims to believe in their versions of Islam, which is not. So that's what happened in Xinjiang. There were so many attacks. Probably you saw on media, for example, the major ones, the riots in 2009 in Urumqi. There are several other ones. But most Western media trying to portray this as the ethnic issues. This is the ethnic issues between Uyghurs and Han people. But no, this group of people are just disguised their true intentions with the racial issues. They killed so many Han Chinese, but they also killed so many Uyghurs. But Xinjiang actually is the home to 56 different ethnic groups of Chinese. So they're not just killing Uyghur, they're also killing Uyghur Muslims who didn't believed in their radicalized ideas. Just one example, a group of terrorists killed the imam of the famous Idaka Mosque in Kashgar. The imam was a very famous imam who did agree with the radicalized idea. He was saying Islam is about love and peace, but then he was attacked by a group of mobs using axe to kill him. So this is what those people are doing, terrorism.
I wanted to move on to another point. China recently celebrated taking 800 million citizens out of extreme poverty, which is over double the entire population of the United States. Even Western media has sheepishly acknowledged that it's kind of an impressive feat. Can you talk about how China achieved that and the changes you've seen in China over the past decade?
I traveled to different corners of Tibet, and before most of the people didn't have the chance to go to school, and they live in extreme conditions. So it's the same situations for many people living in Yunnan province, in different provinces. Their geological conditions are so hard for them to move to different places, even to sell their products to different places. But I think one very good thing is China's government spends so much money building the infrastructures. Now, even you go to the most remote villages, you will see roads leading to each household in the village. That's how they can easily commute with the outside world. And also, the poverty alleviation project is quite targeted in China. It's not just about this region. You get out of poverty by this year. They actually send millions of local officials go to the region to examine each family. What's the reason that led to the poverty of this family? And came out with a detailed solution to help this family. So all the plans are very targeted because each family is poor for different reasons.
Yeah.
And after 2020, when China lifted those people out of extreme poverty, they will continue to stay there for 1 or 2 years just to make sure we finish the goal, but I want to make sure you won't fall back to poverty. We will continue to help you, not just giving you money, but teaching you the skills, how to get a job, how to do certain jobs, and maintain, to make sure those people can forever stand on their feet. So I think that's just a few of the works during the poverty alleviation projects.
Another moment in recent years when U.S. corporate media fell all over themselves was to laud and support Hong Kong protesters, even though some of their leaders had well-known connections to the CIA cutouts like NED and USAID. While it's easy to get the kind of U.S. propaganda side of the Hong Kong protests here, it's not, you can read any article anywhere. It's a lot harder for an American to get the other side. So can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure. I think during this Hong Kong protesting, you can see how double standard, how biased some Western mainstream media are. If you only read Western media, you probably think those protesters are just peaceful protesters. The Hong Kong policemen are the brutal ones. None of them mention those protesters stab policemen, besiege one police officer, a group of mobs besiege one police officer. And they also lead a guy, not a police officer, just a random old guy on the street because this guy didn't agree with the protesters' violent behaviors, calling them out. This old man was set on fire in front of camera. A reporter from Chinese mainland was handcuffed to a trolley, beaten up, besieged by dozens of protesters at the airport. The whole thing was live streamed by a local media. And they also didn't mention how many family members, the wives, the children of the policemen were being harassed or being attacked. Their personal information was being leaked. In some social network groups, they were even talking about how to commit certain crimes towards their wives and their children. And even face such violence, the Hong Kong policemen didn't fire a single bullet towards those violent protesters. I mean, I have to say Hong Kong policemen were inhumanely refrained.
If U.S. police were treated that way with stuff being thrown at them and everything else, it wouldn't have ended peacefully.